Welcome. This is Beyond the Here and Now. I'm your host, Antonia Lau, and this is the show that will take you a moment to wrap your heads around new thought, new thinking, new ideologies, and you've been taught to think and to believe about yourself, the world around you, and your place in it. Today's topic, we're going to talk about spiritual awakening. And the reason why is because, as you notice in the collective energy, it's called collective consciousness, it's called actually. And some people may not understand or know what that word is. It's kind of like the theory of the 100th monkey. In essence, when one of us feels a certain way, all of a sudden, loved ones or friends or people close to us, and then not close to us, all of a sudden sense or feel similar pattern, a similar thing, a similar thought, even a similar attitude. And then it continues to spread collectively. And what ends up happening is right now, on the entire planet, we have that happening worldwide. It's wonderful to see. It's something I've been waiting for a long time, for decades. But I knew that this time would be coming. At this time when our beautiful Earth is hurtling at 67, million miles per hour or through the universe, believe it or not, while we're sitting still in our homes. What ends up happening is we're going through these myriad of changes, the myriad of growth that is beset from not only all the Earth is experiencing, but all we're experiencing as a human. And so sometimes that's kind of crazy for people. They're like, whoa, where's this feeling coming from? But I know something's off, or this doesn't feel right. Perfect. Because what happens is we have to remember we are mental, spiritual, and physical people or beings. So all three areas are being altered or changed, not just one. So our mental focuses are changing, saying something's not right because we got a touch or a hit on a gut level feeling from our intuition, from our guidance system, from divine guidance, from source, whatever words you prefer or are comfortable with. But you can see it all around. You'll notice it when, how can I say it, after great disaster, all of a sudden everybody rushes to help everybody else normally after the fear has gone down. Okay, so they'll all run around, can I help, which is beautiful. But I would love to see it, and I know everyone would, to see that kind of care and compassion before any disasters hit. And like as we waken in our normal day, we know that we'll always be met with kindness, care, and compassion. That's not our normal way, though. And so in this spiritual awakening, we're wondering, well, why is this happening? Because as humans, we've been a little behind on those factors of kindness, care, and compassion, not only with one another, but with the world herself. And so there's a natural correction of things, so to speak, natural cycle of Earth when she goes through her growth and changes. All those energetic changes that she feels, believe it or not, we as humans also feel. Everything on the Earth is impacted. Everything. To say, take a look at what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're saying. Because believe it or not, all those things impact everyone else and every single thing on the planet. And so it doesn't say, oh, just only look at the good, only look at the good. That's not going to work. Because as we all know, evil continues because good men sit back in silence and do nothing. So it takes a guidance system that pulls you with a certain perspective, perhaps, to think about caring or doing something in a more compassionate way. If you see someone frantic, let's try to calm that person down. You don't know what circumstance hit them or why they made that choice, because yes, it's a choice of emotion. But you're going into the feeling of frantic is not going to help them. And so as they're going through this spiritual awareness or this spiritual growth spurt at this time that Earth herself is going through, it's a really important step to look inside and not beat yourself up because you didn't know. Not beat yourself up because this is such a shock that these things have been going on and you didn't realize. Pat yourself on the back because you're now being made aware of these things. And remember, every day, every waking day when you wake up, you get this chance at a brand new day and a brand new start, but a brand new start. So it's important that you don't belittle yourself, degrade yourself, beat yourself up. Just remember you didn't know better. And many times in the world, you've seen the world will do that for you. So you don't need to do it to yourself. But remember, this collective energy is happening. So how can you best yourself from the day before? What can you do to become more spiritually aware? And when I say spiritually aware, it's not woo-woo, cosmos, all that stuff. It's actually a deepening of your individuality, another side of self that's been suppressed. And remember, you have a soul, not just this body, thank goodness. And literally, with that soul, you came here what I call Earth School 101. That's why you're here, for soul growth, for soul awareness, for soul understanding. And so all this gradient, your soul knew you were going to go through beforehand. You said, I can handle this. I can handle this, sucker. That's what you said before you came. And so the trick is now to pull into that part that's been suppressed, because we only retain 1% of that memory of plans before we're born. Okay? To go inside on a soul level, gut level feeling, heart, whatever you prefer. And then go inside and say, wow, these things are new. And you might want to ask the divine universe in your own way, God creator, all there is, source force, the I am, whatever words you prefer. Show me how to navigate this new path in front of me. How best should I move ahead? Believe it or not, we don't usually have that kind of dialogue with ourselves or the universe. That's a missing link, so to speak. Not the original missing link they tried to misname. It's this one, this spiritual link that's been kind of lost, out of place. And you promised this lifetime, even through the myriad of events and evils going on in the world and garbage and good stuff, all happening at the same time, you promised to navigate that field with your higher consciousness, pulling it intact more and more each day, pulling a little bit by little bit by little bit, continuing to improve your awareness until it continues. And remember, to the last draw of breath, there's something we're here and promising to learn. So it doesn't stop. Growth continues. Growth is supposed to escalate, not de-escalate. And remember, it affects everything around you in your life, in your neighborhood, your community, your city, your town, and the world. But it's a collective thing. So don't forget your input, whether you open your mouth or not, is being collected. So we want you to have your highest game forward or your best game out there each day. Okay, and even in days when you may not feel it the best, you know somebody that does, is pretty chipper or may have it a little more in gear than you do. Perhaps connecting to that person, perhaps reading something from someone else that inspires you, hearing or listening to something, someone else. And so it's important with this spiritual awareness, you go to sources that are confirmed. And there are myriads of people out there saying, I can do this, I can do that. Well, fine. But I'm a hard and fast skeptic personally. And people from my audience knows this, I have been all my life. I like a lot of proof. And so that proof and discernment comes after a lot of research. Well, most people don't take time to research. They turn on the radio, the TV. Actually, they don't really turn on the radio anymore except when they're driving. And then it's music. They don't really listen to anything else. They drown out any other features or factors that might be coming on. But on the news, they'll take that as the God that there is, and that really isn't the case. And then they'll go to sleep and then choose their route that way. But what about all those thoughts in your mind that are coming? Well, the questions, don't just push them aside. There are answers to all those questions that you may have about you, your life, and the world around you at this time. And they're easily answered, really easily, if you just asked to show me more awareness, show me more understanding on this subject. And all of a sudden, automatically, something just comes and it's revealed. It opens. And that's important to understand. That's always a gradient that's always there. But normally we work this long, hard way to get there. It's just as easy as saying, I need some help on this. And when we ask, that guidance or help and that discernment tends to open up to greater, deeper levels. And always what everybody can tolerate. Never more than you can tolerate at a time. But it's time for humankind to grow. It's time for humankind to expand. And it's time for you to open up your awareness in the highest way possible for all involved. Today, I'm happy to have my guest with me today, and that is Jon Shatat, and he is one of the presenters for the Edgar Cayce Foundation of the A.R.E. or Association for Research and Enlightenment, and we're going to be discussing that feature. Happy to see you today, Jon. Good to be with us. Jon, can you tell us a little bit about how you came about your spiritual awakening just a bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks for having me. It's really great to be on your show. I've always been a seeker throughout life. I've been a seeker. My mom is a Christian, my dad is a Muslim, and they kind of like didn't force me in any religion. They were like, just whatever resonates with you. And and I started on my spiritual journey seeking. And I saw a documentary on television called The Hidden Mysteries of the Sphinx. And they talked about Edgar Cayce in the documentary. And I was only like 15 years old, but it really stuck to me about Edgar Cayce. And maybe like in a week later, I found two books in Edgar Cayce, There Is a River and Edgar Cayce on Atlantis. And they were like 50 cents and 25 cents each. And I, I bought them both. And I couldn't really get through There Is a River at 15 years old, but there's a philosophy section in there. And that philosophy section talks about the story of the souls, how the souls were first created, and how they came to Earth eventually. And it just spoke to me as if I'd always known it was true, but forgotten it. And as I was reading it, I was remembering it, and so that's really how I started my journey with the Edgar Cayce material. But I'm also very left-brained, so I really had to prove this material that it was actually true. So I became a volunteer for the Edgar Cayce Foundation and started to interview people who had readings by Mr. Cayce, and just do that research, like how accurate was he? What do people who had readings by him say? So, and a lot of them are dead now. So I was fortunate to get to several,
Oh, wow.
maybe a dozen before they died, and sort of get their perspective and see how valid this information was.
That's excellent. So you also went through different training in your work with the organization as well for your own awareness to keep increasing, right?
Right. So I have a bachelor in computer science. So I'm very left brained, but also right brained because I studied massage therapy. They have a massage school, the Cayce Riley School of Massage in Virginia Beach, which is a lot of it is based on the readings by Mr. Cayce. And so I graduated from that. I graduated also. I did a past life regression course and been giving past life regressions, life coaching. So I've added all that to my toolkit.
So ultimately, in all this time, you're using all those, how can I say, qualities in the way you use your life. Like you said, people don't understand the two halves of the brain. The left brain only stores facts, figures, data, keeps the heart and blood pumping, and that's about it. It is not made to deduce solutions. That comes from right brain and higher self. And we connect to that right brain or higher self literally from the how can I say, through the subconscious, through that higher self, connecting to the divine universe, believe it or not, and then coming down through the subconscious. We're supposed to, promising to wear a wall between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind that goes, well, who, what, when, where, why, all day and all night long, because it's not made to deduce solutions. Now, interesting, because you said the whole brain or right and left brain, that was discovered way back in the 40s and then 50s by the Russians, who kept working on both right and left brain activities in their work and their researches. So they started all this before it was popular to do so or stated in the US, okay? And so it was very common knowledge that they were working on that research. And in India, they've always been doing it, combining in the studies of the ancient adepts, literally bringing down that focus of right brain so it can work collectively with left brain. So this whole person or whole human being. And so I like the fact that you had the courage to come out of your left brain world and open up to that other side of self. Most don't. They don't think it's necessary. They've intellectualized in their left brain that they don't need to do this. They don't have the time, and that's nonsense. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? That's the other half of you. That's the other part of you. And so they suppress it or they deny it, actually.
Yeah, you talked earlier about a missing link, and that's really I felt something was missing, and if I'm not involved into spirituality, I feel something is missing from my life.
Very good. Okay, now you said you have had the privilege with finding Casey, and I remember my finding Casey, and I was shocked, Jon, because I had studied for years, and I mean, I study in depth. I like tear everything apart, and because of my skepticism, I would like all that proof. But I hadn't heard of Casey's material until late in my studies, and I'd studied the Eastern philosophies and the Western traditional psychologists and all their focus on the psyche and all that stuff. That's nice, but what happened was Casey's work I was guided to in an unusual way unfolding. I won't talk about how now, but the point why it was, I went to look. I thought, let's see if I can prove this guy wrong. That was the whole point. And after about 20 or 30 books based on his material, I couldn't believe it. It confirmed everything that I was on a line with for spiritual growth and awareness and what happened to humankind and all that. But it corrected the errors in all the other people's works. I couldn't believe that. Dates, times, locations, spaces, all those extrapolations about how we came to be. And so people have to understand, no, we didn't just step out of the continent of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. No, that's what is purported to be for the scientists that have only left brain knowledge, not the ones that have opened up that right brain side of themselves. And there are several out there that do that, like Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joel Dispenza. They open up to finally, but after years of being left brain like you. So I love the fact that you not only went through and discovered the body of his work, Edgar Casey's work, and utilized it in your life, you even were drawn or guided to research those that had had readings with him and were still alive. And especially in the area, because for the first 20 years of his life, he gave only readings, or medical readings, they're called, about the human body. And so the audience will know that doctors couldn't figure out how would he know. He lay in a trance state, right? And then what ended up literally happening, he would come in and they would put a person's name or a letter that the person has written, and literally a stenographer would type every single word he said. And he was shocked even after what he said, but it was information for all of us to use. It would not only diagnose the issue or find an absolute cure for the issue and the reason why behind. And then after 20 years of only medical readings, the life readings came to be. So he started to talk about humankind and our world and the earth and everything. So there's a myriad of information from his whole life, from the time the reading started in the 20s, all the way to his passage, I guess, in the by 1945, just before the war ended. So what did you find, can I ask, in that research of yours with some of the people that had readings with him, please?
Sure, sure. The very first person I really got to interview was a man named George Conjar, and he was dying from tuberculosis in a sanatorium in Pennsylvania. Like, he was on his deathbed, and he sent a letter to Mr. Casey asking for a reading, and he had promised Mr. Casey that if he got a reading for free, because he didn't have any money, he was like 19 years old. So he promised that if Mr. Casey would give him the reading for free, for 3 years, he would dedicate his life um, or to the poor. And so I went there, I interviewed him, and he
Wait a
confirmed
minute,
to
wait a minute. What year was that he gave the reading for him?
he got the reading in 1944.
Okay, wow, the year before.
1943, 1944. He got two
Okay,
readings.
okay.
So he was the first person I ever got to interview, and I sat down with him, and he told me, yes, I was in a sanatorium in Pennsylvania. I never met Mr. Casey. I sent him the letter. He gave me the reading free of charge. And the day I got the reading, I checked out of the sanatorium. I checked out because they wanted to remove his lung, because
Oh, wow.
they
Yeah.
were saying at where you at, like he was saying where he was at in his tuberculosis, he was so advanced that everybody had seen had died with that
Oh,
same
wow.
stage that he was at. So his family came, picked him up, and they all pitched in to have all the ingredients that they needed to have, that the reading prescribed. And he followed the reading to the letter, and he got cured. And
And they were all natural ingredients, correct?
correct, yeah. So the main thing was having a keg with charred oak in that, and then they would put in apple brandy, and the gases from the brandy mixed with the oak, he would inhale, and it would just kill. It was alcohol, so the alcohol would kill the bacteria in
Of the
his lungs,
tuberculosis bacteria.
and it's good for many lung conditions for that same reason.
Mm.
And and this was a cure back in 1944. Like, people today are dying from tuberculosis, and here Edgar was giving a cure like 80 90 years ago.
My mother's father died of tuberculosis when she was 6 years old. So that's interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, and so then I asked him, well, you'd made this promise that you would help your fellow man. Did you keep your promise? And George told me that for after he got cured for 3 years, he would give 1/3 of his salary to his mom. He would keep 1/3 for himself, and 1/3 he would go into the poorest areas of uh, of Harrisburg, and he would just give money to the poor.
Really?
Yeah, and he was very sincere, and I left that interview and I said to myself, oh my God, it's all true. Like this really happened. Because sometimes you read the readings and it's like it's kind of abstract, but once you actually meet the people, it's very concrete. And you know, if Edgar was right about giving this man a cure, and I witnessed it myself, he was very credible,
Right.
then it's a good bet Edgar was right about all the other things that he said as well.
It's interesting when you say that. It's interesting because you realize he just sent a letter. People have to understand. Edgar Casey never met the person. And not only that, letter was chosen out of bags of letters. Casey was getting that by that time, 1944. He would go in and pull out of stacks of mail, and that would be the reading or those readings that he would do at the time. Yes, and I love the follow through, because he didn't just get the thing, oh well, I'm going to read this and not follow through. It was his life, and it was important. He followed through, and the family supported him in that. And yet, what I love most of all is that reading from Casey in 44 to this very day has affected how he gives and shares to others. That's pretty a strong impact. That's awesome.
His daughter was telling me that even to this day, and he's in his 90s now, even to this day, like her dad was giving always to the poor. And he initially hadn't told it to his family because having TB back then was like having AIDS today, or there was no cure for it. So he kept it. He actually became a smoker, but he finally told his family, and he actually got a chance to come to the A.R.E. a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
It's a very beautiful story.
You see, and people don't understand that how can I say, that kind of feeling or follow through. And this is a quality or the content that the human soul is capable of, that everybody, if they work at it and literally choose those right intentions, can follow through or do not only the work on his side. So at the A.R.E., they have, of course, that collection of over 14,000 readings. At the A.R.E., everybody wants to go, they can go to edgarcasey.org and see all those 14,000 readings. But when you talked about your own spiritual awareness, and based on what Casey's work is now given to you, and going and talking to this man, he's in his 90s to this day, and seeing how that spiritual awareness had opened, something told him on a gut level feeling, check out of this hospital and follow this information. That was gut level and intuitive. And so, yeah, everybody has free will choice to suffer, moan, complain, begrudge, get angry, or do something. And that's the key. He actually did something. And so that's pretty good. So what ends up happening is, for this weekend, can you tell us now, this very weekend of September 25th at night, Friday, for a meet and greet, but because we have to do it online due to COVID, is the Spiritual Awakening Retreat at Montreal. But this is good because this year it's going to be online, and everybody in the world, if they choose at that time, Eastern time, can come to listen to all those talks. And the talks are, what, again, on Saturday, the 26th?
Correct. So usually we having this spiritual awakening retreat in Montreal every year, but because of COVID, we had to move it online.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, it begins on Friday at 7 o'clock. It's a meet and greet on Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can have people from across the world just meeting each other. Don't be intimidated to come. It's fun to meet new people. If you have interest in Casey, you're most welcome, or any spiritual interest, you're most welcome. And then on the Saturday, we're starting at 12:30, and we're having 4 lectures by Casey specialists in Canada. I'll be talking myself about overcoming negative thought patterns.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the material coming from the readings. The whole
Yes.
theme of the retreat is moving from fear into love, because like there's a lot of
See,
fear.
again, that theme right now is going to be important. The
Yeah.
theme again, can you repeat it for the audience?
Moving out of fear into love.
And I'll state why I said that's going to be important now. That's the theme. And what we see is the divisive nature that's happened between around the world for all the wrong reasons about mask, no mask, COVID, no COVID. How can I say it, anger, Democrat, Republican, and all that anger usually comes based on fear. So it's kind of a sad thing when we think about it, that people aren't, how can I say, they're not aware, or they're not opening to that awareness of what is being caused right now, or handling it in the proper way. So again, for the audience to hear, Saturday, the 26th of September, the 26th, literally from 12:30 at noon until that evening, 9 p.m. And they can go on the schedule and they can find that schedule a few places. They can find that schedule on the edgarcasey.ca site. That's edgarcasey.ca, and just look at upcoming events, and then they can actually go on and see the schedule. You tap in for more info, and you can see the schedule of speakers, talk, and how to get on with that Zoom code. And again, everyone is welcome just to come learn. And you can have your screen off, you can have your video off, you don't have to have it on, in the comfort of your home. You can do it from your phone, or you can do it, and if they want to tap in at the list on the bottom of the Zoom, they always have all over the world where you tap in for that particular area, what you need to tap in on your phone to contact. So there's all kinds of ways to join us, and it's for free. The big thing, it's free.
Absolutely. We were inspired by, Mr. Casey very often would give readings for free. He gave that reading for George for free that saved his life. So we wanted to give it for free for the whole world. And if you want to make a donation, you can, but you feel under no obligation to. We're here to offer the material for people's spiritual understanding and spiritual growth.
And I also have been asked, thank you very much for kindly asking. I will also be giving a talk from 4 to 5:20 Eastern time that evening, and it's called Transition from Fear to Love. And so each speaker has a different slant, a different focus, and so all can gain that information. So I'm happy and honored to do a talk as well. But it's an amazing time when you think about the world. And this COVID time has had its issues, but it's also had its pluses. To every dark cloud, there's a silver lining, right? So ultimately, there's something wonderful that we can go inside. We've had time to kind of check in there. And even if you had to barricade yourself amongst the household because you're there more often, you found a way to go in a little bit. And so this would be a day you can either have it for the household, or you can have it just for you on your own, on your phone, on your laptop, your iPad, and you can come join us for this Saturday, and that's from 12:30 to 9 at night. And Friday night is the meet and greet, 7 to 9, just light and casual, if they want to meet at that same link. Can you tell us, do you want to share another story about one of your research on your healers, or one of the people that have been healed, actually?
Sure. So I got inspired by doing all the interviews that I was doing for the Ed Casey Foundation and the people I was interviewing. So I started collecting other healing stories. So people who were, for example, so Ed Casey gave all these remedies and cures for different diseases. So I started meeting people who had used those remedies in their own personal lives and got cured. And so I started interviewing these people as well. And I started a website called cures.live. It's still a work in progress, but you can already start seeing some of the research and the interviews that I have done. And so George Conjur's story is going to be on there. There's going to be a link to his video.
And let's say that the URL again, cures.live,
Yes,
Live.
cures.live, cures.live.
Okay. And
And,
that's, go ahead.
and so
And
that's
I'll,
for, so I have a list of ailments, and I'm always working at it, always adding more ailments for the people that I've interviewed. And so I've heard all of these amazing stories of healing, a lot of them based on the Casey readings, not all of them, but a lot of them, like a mother that healed her son's ADD.
oh, wow.
using using hypnosis,
Really?
using pre-sleep suggestions. Like Edgar Casey was a big fan of pre-sleep suggestions. So what his mother would do, she would like sneak into his room and play the CD over and over again with the right suggestions.
I'm going to share just on that note. This is interesting because I've been doing pre-sleep work, actually CDs or making those tapes for my clients for many years. And it started, John, because I have one son and very intelligent, brilliant, and all that good stuff. And sure enough, he was in a school for gifted kids, which was great. He had done all the testing, nice. But he switched to a new grade. I think it was the 6th grade at the time. And I got a call from his male teacher who had seen all his grades and scores and his IQ and all that stuff. He said, I won't have this. And I thought, excuse me. He said, this is an A+ student or an A student, and he's getting C work. I won't have it in my class. And I said, pardon me. He says, he's getting C work. I won't have it. And I'm calling you because it's just, I won't take it in my class. And it was like it was like after the first month of September, like early October. And I had never received a call like that. And I thought, oh, what the heck? So sure enough, and this is to show your audience how it really works. It's kind of interesting. So I said, well, thank you very much. Well, I was aware of pre-sleep tapes at that time. And I thought, let me try. And so I did it and recorded. But I asked him, I said, so I knew what I wanted to put on there. Is there anything you want me to add to your sleep tape? He says, this. And I had him pick his own song to put underneath it. So it kind of gives something else for him to focus with. And Casey says, with the knowledge of music, the knowledge of the whole universe, basically. So he did it, and it was maybe 10 to 15 minutes long. And at the end, I put all these nice suggestions on. You'll do your highest and best easily at school. You'll be the best of your teachers, your friends. You'll do your homework. You'll do this without all the stuff, okay, that you want your child to do, right? God loves you. Mom loves you, da-da-da. And so I had finished it one day. I'd come home from work, and he was from school. And I said, I made your, tape for you. Why don't you go play it? And he said, okay. And he went and put it on. And I was busy preparing dinner in the kitchen. I said, dinner's ready. And there was no movement to scramble for the table. I was a divorced single mom. So wait a minute, dinner's ready, called again. And I looked out into the living room. He had fallen asleep, still daylight outside, because it was a pre-sleep tape, but he'd fallen asleep right by the player while he was listening to it. And that would have never happened. He got good enough of sleep that night before. I looked at him, oh my God, it works. So I gently woke him up. I said, did you like it? He said, yeah, I liked it. And so we ate dinner and all that. And he played it that night, and he played it. And then he would ask me through his school years, he would ask, can you make me another tape this year? Can you make me it went all the way up to his university times. And so I thought it was kind of interesting to see. And so I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting that he took it from his basic childhood all the way until, how can I say, till he's like 18 years old into university. And so I thought that was kind of interesting to see. And so on that note, we want to realize that what Casey shows us really works. It's really that successful. So from that time on, I have had clients that have done those, or Casey has them on the Edgar Casey Foundation, edgarcasey.org website. They're pre-sleep tapes as well. But it's important people know that access is part of their focus, or part of their spiritual side that they've not been able to connect on their own. It immediately connects that left brain, right brain quality right there that you were talking about earlier. So your own work, how can I say it, with the Cures Live, Cures.live, okay, is for them to go see on that site. They can actually see what is it, all those focuses, all those changes and all those qualities of items that they can use, and you have it listed by the disease, right?
By the ailment, yes.
By the ailment, okay, or the health issue, and they can follow. Now, the interesting thing is some of them are some kind of old-fashioned people haven't heard about before, but they're all there, and they're normally usually natural. But if not, or we have, I guess it's bar.com, BAAR.com, makes those remedies and available to the public, and that's online as well as Heritage Products still makes lots of those products as well. And I like, because the recipes are right there, that it lets you make up those ingredients too. Okay.
Absolutely. And just to, as a disclaimer, like always, like whenever you try something new, always consult with your doctor
Right.
before you do anything.
Right. And so what we know, like I said, this is not to diminish what the doctor has offered. This is an adjunct, but these things didn't just bring relief of symptoms. These things brought about actual healing in places when it was their last effort, when they were given a prognosis to die. Many times when they were so ill, the doctors, they'd been to several doctors, and the doctors didn't have a clue. And Casey would lay down, and his wife Gertrude and his stenographer Gladys would literally take the notes for the entire, how can I say it, focus on that person's life, for that person's benefit. And that information, people were, where did it come from? Casey, on his soul and his lives, had worked to a point of understanding and awareness to connect to the Akashic record. And that means that if Casey could do it, we all can, but it takes work. It's not this instantaneous, now you can read your Akashic record. It's actually, you take some strong intention, strong work, working on parts of self that are no longer wonderful for self. And so what ends up happening is it's an individual thing. Nobody has to know about that stuff. But cleaning up that stuff, and Casey wasn't perfect by any means. He was a normal man. But he had done all this work in this and several lives and in between lives, and dedicated and devoted this entire life in service for humankind and the growth and development of humankind.
And he said anyone can do it as long as you're willing to pay the price. There's a price that comes with that.
Mm-hmm. Literally, people want to know the price, and people don't realize Casey came at a time when the first Spanish flu pandemic hit the world. Actually, the First World War before that hit, and then he was also alive during the time of the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, when everybody would lost the farms and there was no food and people were poor. Then the beginning of the Second World War, just before the end, he passed. So he lived amidst the worst in the world, and still continued to give with the intention to give. And what I love is his son, Hugh Lynn Casey, brought that legacy forward for the rest of all of us, obviously his soul mission this lifetime. And so to this very day, it's located in Virginia Beach, but it circumvents the world. There are Casey study groups around the world where the people can study each week with other like-minded individuals to learn more. And the books are available at the Edgar Casey A.R.E. catalog, as well as online at Amazon.com. All these sources at edgarcasey.ca. We have a myriad of videos about his work and the life based on his work. We have a blog that goes out with information about how it affects other people. So there's no excuse. If we really want to learn, we just have to touch the surface. But they can really do this if they happen to join us on Zoom easily on Saturday, this September the 25th at 12:30 I'm sorry, 12:30 to start, and then 7 p.m. And if they want to do the meet and greet, if they're not so shy, they can do the meet and greet at 7 to 9 the Friday night before. And so those links are always going to be at edgarcasey.ca. That's edgarcasey.ca. And if they just click the tab on upcoming events, they can see more detail about the schedule of the speakers and the detail of the events for Saturday, as well as the meet and greet and the join-in links as well for Zoom. Easy peasy link. All they have to do is click it, no problem. And so we want to encourage people not to be worried about what other people are going to say, because at the end of this life, you have to be responsible for what you did in your life. And that's the key. And so the whole point, people don't recognize, it's normally not taught. You're not here for all the stuff and the cute toys and the fun. That's nice. Okay. You're here for soul growth and personality development, to get rid of personality traits that aren't the best and gather those and use those traits and talents to improve your life and others, the lives of others. You're literally, and leave the world better than when you came. That's the real purpose. But unfortunately, most people don't know, most folks don't know this. They're not aware of this. They're unsure of these processes. So Casey has a beautiful way that he lines out how these processes are done. And you know, John, when you said, he said, if I can do it, everybody can. It takes work. And then the prepare to pay the price for it. It takes that dedication, a love for the divine universe, God creator. And I know now it's popular to say there's nothing that exists above us, but I can guarantee you, Casey got into detail that even me as a professional psychic, I still aspire to. I remember when he was talking about people didn't believe in to this day that there was a crucifixion of Jesus, the Christ of consciousness. Okay, and I remember Casey said, somebody asked, well, what happened? What happened at that night before? Why didn't he knew that he was going to be betrayed? He still, with unconditional love, loved all of his disciples. He said, well, what was he wearing? He wore a gray a robe that was a gift from the family of Lazarus, who was his dearest friends, and they gave him this one-piece robe. And he said, at the table, the disciples ate boiled rice and fish. And he said in the carafe, they had carafes of wine, and the carafe that the master drank from had a chip on the top of the lip of the carafe. I thought, oh, come on, this is some detail, you know? So this is important, and then people could understand why this process had to happen and what was actually done for humankind. And so it's a really important process to know, and that's just on that step, let alone about the earth, her cycles, the changes, their bodies, medicine, their spiritual understanding, their awareness of who we are. We're not just this body, folks. We are certainly not. We're more than that. And you're not just this left brain. And that's what we're taught to only pay attention to. Right brain is creativity and connection to that download from the divine universe for high talents and everything from artistic creativity to music to inventions. It all comes from right brain. And so when you said earlier, the whole brain connection is awesome. It's a necessity this lifetime. This is what we promised this lifetime to give the world. So remember, we're here to clean up our own garbage. Everybody responsible, no blame to anybody else. And how can I say, literally learn to open our soul growth and awareness. That's the purpose and process. And then leave the world better than when we came. Because any of us are going to be asked when we get out of here, so what'd you do? What'd you do for soul growth? How'd you do this time? And you have to answer that question. And the other question is, how did you leave the world better? Those are the two things. They're not going to ask what's in your bank account. They're not going to ask what your titles were. They're not going to ask what awards you got, how many degrees you got. They're not going to ask any of that. What they're going to ask is how you improved as a human being in your connection to the divine universe and your awareness that you are one with all that you see up there, every star, moon, planet up there, the entire cosmos, you are a part of. And that's what people have to understand, that connection. I always say, if you look at like the back of a leaf, you see a green leaf and you turn it over and you go, oh, wow. And you see veins going through the leaf. And scientists, of course, know that chlorophyll is 99.5% similar to human blood. Interesting. But it also uses a vein structure to send it not only through the leaf, but from the tree or the plant to those leaves to push it out for that growth and to nourish that leaf. But it does more than turn the leaf green. And as you study the back of that leaf, you'll notice that it's similar to your own body, your own vein structure. And when you recognize, just looking at that leaf, that, oh my goodness, we all come from that same creation, that same source that created all this. It doesn't mean you are less than. It means you are part of this whole. And that's what people forget. That awareness alone, unfortunately, 70% of the population has not got. And the trick is, when you choose awareness, people have to know that it inspires awareness in everybody else. I've said this before, but that social distancing, the new word of the new lexicon for the 20th century, is actually becoming into being because, believe it or not, the powers that be know that collective consciousness is real. And so when you walk by somebody, within 3 feet, your auric energetic field that surrounds every human being and everything intersects with somebody else's. And that's 3 feet on either side. So now you know why they don't want everybody to be 6 feet from, they have to be 6 feet and not within that 6 feet of everybody else. Because right now they know the collective energies are going. How can your neighbor know, sense something, talk about it? You'll know your telepathy is increasing. How can you know that? You'll say the same word as somebody else in the room or in your office or down the street just said. How can that happen? It's because this race for humankind comes once in a blue. Finally, it's happening. and we're all collectively raising. Remember, no one person, I always say, is better than another, just different. But we promise to inspire all our brothers and sisters on the planet, even the ones that don't know better. Most people don't like to listen, except on the show. They don't like to listen to what other people say. So to do. So what happens is they don't hear when you talk one-on-one, perhaps. But what happens is this energy field expresses all that knowledge. And so if they're getting that urge that something is missing in their life, it's not stuff that they need. They don't need the newest this, the newest that. They need soul purpose, soul connection, and soul growth and awareness. And so the spiritual awakening weekend or retreat that is normally called, normally based out of Montreal, now it's worldwide online this week, this Saturday. It's important that they too can start to open that quality of awareness just by taking that action. So it's real simple. We'll just click the Zoom link at those times that you want, and then you're there. We hope you're there to join us as well. And John, I want to thank you for being with me on the show today. But this is my portion of gift back to you for coming as a guest on my show today. And so I try to give this back because this is a spiritual divine gift that I've given, the gift of prophecy, the gift of psychic ability since childhood. And even since then, I figured, God would not give a little kid this gift for nothing. So I knew as a child that I better learn or utilize it properly. But I came from an academic-based family, and they didn't discuss any of these subjects. So by 9, I was pulling out my adult books out of the adult section of the bookstore at the library, not the bookstore. We didn't have that, but the library, to learn all this. And I've never stopped the learning. Used to read a book a week. Now it's 5 at a time. But with that process, I've learned I like I said, confirmation. I am psychic, clairvoyant, clairaudient. In fact, all the clairs, I always say all the clairs. But it's important that people understand that that's part of the process. I actually see and hear the person's guide / guardian angel. Years ago, I wanted more proof. I thought, this is somebody's life. Give me some more proof. And it began to happen. And I like, what? It was before the books and the movies and the trends. I thought, are you kidding me? But I've learned that that guide that person chose before their birth, and everyone has to choose before they come to earth, even Donald Trump. But you have free will whether you listen to him or not. And so what happens is literally that guide knows that person much better than I do. So during the reading, I pay good, humble, rapt attention. It's not my opinion. It's not my belief. We have no time even on the show for belief or theory. Okay. So I found that the way that they were intended to be utilized is in the highest way. But me and the safeguard, I got to have 3 or 4 points of confirmation. So I use advanced astrology, esoteric astrology, evolutionary astrology, spiritual astrology, as well as numerology, as well as tarot, all those points, palmistry, graphology. I know all those sciences very well, but I only use them as a third factor, the third point of reference. I notice that the guides do know everything. We as humans just use the 2% of our brain really want to figure out this stuff. But they do know everything, and they're waiting to be asked. They're around 24/7, and they don't judge. Only stupid humans judge. So this is who I go to for the reading. So we're going to do a mini reading on the air, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to come as a guest. And it's just going to be one question. You're going to phrase the question so it's answerable, please, by yes, no, or maybe. They're going to tell you the answer to that specific question you asked. I'll always help you phrase it if you need. And then they'll tell you how it affects your life and the answer to that question. And remember, you have free will to apply the information or not, always. I just use a tarot to confirm. So do you have a question that's being poised in your mind right now that I could, as a mini reading for you, as a gift?
Um,
What subject might we cover? Because right now your head's going through brain fog there. Okay, whoa, a myriad of things pop up, right? It's human nature. What's
well,
something that's important to you?
it's more going like, if I'm asking a personal question, like all these people will hear my personal question.
Okay, so let's ask one. So they'll all learn from it. But if you, like I said, we'll touch it in format so you don't have to say names or whatever opportunity. And so people are safeguarded that way. And they'll tell you the answer to the question all about it. So is it a subject we're going to talk about? Is it going to, it could be about career. It could be about finances. It could be about love life. It could be whatever you want, spiritual growth. It could be, don't just ask about world peace though, but it's too broad. So it could be a question that's important to you. If you'll complete your soul development that you promised this lifetime, or next week, I'm teasing, or if at the end of this life you will look back and be pleased with what you did. That's still too vague in general, but something specific is where the guide would like to help on, so to speak. Your career choices, or your goals or dreams, will you achieve those in this life, or if at the attempts you made, all those things. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I hope it's not too vague, but accomplishing all the dreams that I have in this life.
Okay, that's vague. So let's go to dream number one. What pops up from your into your head? Just hold it in your head.
One of my dreams is to create a Casey retirement project,
Okay,
a,
good.
a, a place where people, when they grow older, they can retire to. So it's based on the philosophy of the Casey readings.
Okay,
Just to bring them closer to God. You're living in a sense of community.
okay.
Health readings. So yeah, I'd like
Okay,
to.
so let's focus just on that. So what we're going to do is, I like the intention, and I want you to feel in your heart that intention. You want to create a community, and think of those ways in your mind that you felt it should be formed. Not what you have to do, what you want it to look like on that end. Okay, in the future. And you want to know, in this lifetime, will you be effectively, or will you absolutely achieve this dream of making a Casey retirement community? But don't worry about what other people think or say, or about the state of the world right now. You're not asking me the answer to that question. With love and respect, you're addressing it to the divine universe now. God creator, your guide, you're an angel. They do know everything. We just think we do. And as I shuffle to confirm as well, third point of conference reference, concentrate to the divine universe in your mind non-verbally, asking just that way to God creator, your own guide, guardian angel. In this lifetime, will you actually achieve your dream? Feel how happy that would make you in your heart. And you can close your eyes if it makes you feel better to think about that, the thoughts you have about how you want it to be planned, how you want it to form, and how good it would be and how it would feel to have like-minded individuals under the Casey mantle, okay, for that retirement community. And whenever you're ready, John, asking God and the divine universe that question, say, stop shuffling to me. Whenever your heart says it's ready.
Stop shoveling.
People don't realize it's not like some storefront gypsy, and that's when people want to get a difference. As a professional psychic, there's a code of ethics, as well as that connection truly. It's more than that. So the tarot was actually utilized, and you'll see mine has a cross on the back, literally, hermetic cross, with all the yids, yids, God's alphabet of God's name, so to speak, that have a meaning or a purpose. Now, believe it or not, you were trusting because you had no clue what this is going to say. And I didn't either. I have no. We're literally, people don't realize an archangel speaks behind each card. There's 78 cards in a deck of tarot. It's supposed to open the God's eye, third eye, or pineal gland. And literally each person or reader or psychic would read it in a different manner, but it's coded to that psychic's third eye or God's eye. But those guides, your guide knows this information. I heard them say personal information. They just corrected me. And it shows me on the pathway you're headed, John. I'm happy and pleased to say the answer is yes. On the pathway you're headed. I'm in shock. My human side going, what? It's yes? Because I was worried, what am I going to say if it's not? Okay, but I let them tell me. But it shows me here on the soul level, the answer is yes. On the pathway you are currently headed, you are doing so. You're making this happen. And it's apropos. People don't realize we in the United States alone have 10,000 people per day turning 65 years old, the age of retirement. And people do not understand that fact. 10,000 a day. After World War II, everybody got happy. So they were trying to replenish those losses, so to speak. And not a mistake that those people are here today. And all that wisdom is a collection. And if you're putting it into community, that wisdom is for the benefit of all of us. If people are racked in pain and worry about where they're going to be, live, they can't give us that wisdom that they've gleaned all these years. Okay, so everybody has some knowledge, but wisdom is the key to put it together properly. And these people have seen qualities of life, and they deserve to be treated well, to be honored, to be respected, and then they can pass that wisdom off to generations below them that are going to need every drop that they have. But not only is it yes, I'm kind of shocked. Not only is it yes, it shows me you're making some sort of compromises about how or when or where this will be, and it shows me your attitude or approach. Even though they said you're taking baby steps at this time, those exact words, you're taking baby steps to this process, and that's all it takes. People don't understand. It just takes a thought, given that download from the divine universe, then an action, the next day another action, then it gets a stronger process. It shows me here to put it in a book. This is important. What I mean by a book is not a book that you publish. This is like one of those dollar store books. When you write things down, remember they manifest faster. So your list, put down the name of the name so far for the organization or whatever, and then each day that you have a thought, just jot it down on paper. What happens is we learn in high school physics, any 2 points touch, it manifests as the third point, right? The third point is manifested. One dimension, in other words, is a gaseous bubble or thought. It dissipates. 2 dimensions or 2 points touching, it automatically forms the third point, okay, or manifestation. So when it's on paper, it exists 2-dimensionally. The thought is now written on paper. And then it automatically builds the thing they're focusing on. So this is extremely important, and it is in your own hand, not on a computer. That's quite different, okay? This is your soul connection to the divine universe when it's written in your own hand. You can write the date if you want, that note or that download came across, and just keep that little book. Nobody knows it's for just you, but it helps to manifest. They said what happens here. They said it's not just a theory. To state it's not just a theory. It also shows me here on the pathway you're headed, you've been it looks like you're not sleeping very well on this in the last few days. Like I said, on this thought or this thinking, kind of waking up till still exhausted, not sleeping well, waking up. It shows me the divine universe or the cosmos has been trying to give divine input or follow through on this particular subject matter the last few weeks, the last 3 weeks and coming up the next 3. The tendency was for the left brain. Get this, I want to show people what this is. For me, this indicates this is left brain. You see that all those cogs and wheels blocked? You see all that golden light trying to break through?
Yes.
That would be the divine universe, okay? Trying to break through. And it shows that it's been trying to break through. So what you want to tell your human side at night is, shut up. After you do your guided meditation or prayer or meditation, whatever you do, ask them to help you just on this by stating it. Help show me what I need to do on this process, or in the morning. Lead me, guide me, walk beside me. Keep me on my divine right path, I always say. It's extremely important, okay? So it shows me on the path you're headed, literally, that there's a gentleman that you'll meet. It shows me a gentleman that will come around, even though there's people that are saying, that's nice, stop, but you'll never get it done. Remember, everything that is successful, somebody was told that they weren't going to make it. They didn't listen. You got it? So that's the key. Because here it shows me on the path you're headed, John, that you're going to be introducing this idea to someone that is learned or respected, could be doctor, a lawyer, an attorney. He's earned his ducks and respect in the world, and he wants to contribute in some way for this. It shows me God and the divine universe's influence on this. It shows me the best card in the deck, and they're both here. There's only 2 in my deck, the sun and the world or the universe. And I want people to see, literally, that's God's eye shining up at the upper left-hand corner, shining on every area of your life. That's down in the next 3 to 4 weeks that's coming. This is you skippy, happy, hoppy about making all this stuff happen. And that's showing from God in the universe. Now, we do know that there are going to be naysayers. But literally, it shows me when you release yourself from what their opinions are, what their thoughts are, and just follow through, you move forward. Everybody that is out there has an opinion. That's the problem. It has nothing to do with what you promised to do. Your soul knows what it promised to do so. So it shows me when you're going to release certain situations out of your life, even when obstacles come. Look at all the obstacles Casey had with getting the hospital up. Okay? So those are examples to keep inspired. It does show me literally as the outcome, the reason why this is coming together. When the mind is filled with spirit, the material cup is filled to overflowing, literally. Okay. And this is important. People have to understand all that vibration of all that sacred geometry you see behind. Literally, it's important because we have to keep that spiritual divine connection. And it shows me by making this process happen on the pathway you're headed, that divine connection, your intention happens. It also shows me, yes, to let you know, I have to be honest, when I see it here, you will, and the world will experience earth changes. So what? She's changed before. Big deal. As long as we properly prepare, there should be no problem. There's no time for fear. We're talking about that on Saturday at the Spiritual Awakening Retreat, literally at Montreal, where we hope to see everyone. If they just check on edgarcasey.ca at upcoming events, they're going to see the schedule. As it's just info and check more information, they'll see that. And we also want to let them know that we have Sydney Kilpatrick, the documentarian and author, or award-winning author, who literally wrote one of the best books on Casey, The American Prophet. He's also coming to a talk on October 3rd, and that's also going to be online. And that one will be for a $25 donation, literally, that they can make for the ticket to see that event on October 3rd. So either whether they're coming on September 25th or 26th, that Saturday or Friday or Saturday this week, online. You can find all that information on the events for Sydney and Nancy Kirkpatrick, his wife that brought him to the Casey material. So we try to offer this online because this growth and spiritual awareness is so very necessary for the collective, especially at this time. Thank you so much, Jon, for being with us today. It was wonderful to have you.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
No problem. And I want to wish the audience all the best. Take good care.